Hey, what is up, guys? It's Brennan here. Today we're covering the Chase Trifecta. What is the Chase Trifecta, and what kind of credit cards should you get with Chase Bank in order to best maximize this trifecta or 3-card setup with Chase? Now, first we're going to be defining what exactly is the Chase Trifecta, taking a look at the cards, how the earn rates work, and effectively the overall strategy for your credit card setup in order to maximize the rewards that you get out of your Chase credit card setup. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into things. And of course, if you do want to check out any of these Chase cards, I'll have referral links linked down below in the video description, which really helps out to support the channel. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. So the Chase Trifecta, right? Lots and lots of content on the internet covering, the Chase Trifecta. How do I maximize value? What is the point of it? That's what we're covering here in today's video. So effectively, what the Chase Trifecta is essentially you're able to get a couple of their standard rewards cards, such as the Chase Freedom Unlimited, as well as the Chase Freedom Flex, and maybe a Chase Sapphire Preferred in order to get a 3-card setup, essentially completing your triangle, trifecta, holy trinity of credit card rewards, where you can basically earn on your spend with the Freedom Unlimited, the Chase Freedom Unlimited, the Chase Freedom Flex, and then you can transfer those points to outsized value with the transfer partners available on the Chase Sapphire Preferred. That's essentially what the Chase Trifecta is. Now, to better define each of these cards and what you can actually come to expect with these and how to maximize your spend, that's what we're going to be looking at now. So first card in the setup, in the lineup, is traditionally the Freedom Unlimited. Now, there are also some other options we'll get into later in this video covering the Ink business cards, such as maybe the Ink Business Unlimited. This card does also earn ultimate rewards points that you can pool together by combining points and transferring to travel partners as well as another option for rewards as part of your Chase Trifecta. However you want to build it, we'll get into the Inks and the business credit cards later in this video. But for the personal card side of things, the Chase Freedom Unlimited is essentially Chase's catch-all card. Now, it earns on 1.5% on all purchases, and then they do also offer 3% on dining and drugstores, as well as 5% on travel purchase through Chase Travel Portal. Now, in my opinion, the most useful is the 3% on dining and drugstores, although I really don't shop at places like CVS or Walgreens all that too often. Personally, I find myself using the 3% on dining, and the 1.5% on all purchases is pretty useful, especially maybe if you're a beginner to credit cards. The Chase Freedom Unlimited can be a good catch-all credit card while staying inside the Chase ecosystem. Maybe if you already have a banking relationship with Chase and you want to just keep within their ecosystem, that can also be a good way to go, is with the Chase Freedom Unlimited. Essentially, this is the base level card, pretty much the first card almost anybody gets in their Chase Trifecta. Now, this card also comes with a $0 annual fee, so there is no fee to keep this card as well. So essentially you can rack up some earnings. Now, depending on when you're watching this video, they may also be offering a certain card member offer, which could be a sign-up bonus. Right now, it's $200 on $500 to spend in the first 3 months from account opening. Now, I'm not going to be going too much into different sign-up bonuses for all these different cards because they do vary from time to time, and depending on when you're watching this video, it may be different. But keep in mind, you'll probably get some sort of sign-up bonus when you're looking at any of these cards in the video. Pretty much all these cards do offer at least some sort of sign-up bonus, so you can also take that into account, at least in your first year value, when you're getting these cards, maybe as a brand new beginner. Now, the Chase Freedom Unlimited really is pretty much a no-frills card. It doesn't really come with too much else. Again, cashback rewards. It does come in the form of ultimate rewards points. So essentially, you can save up those points, and we'll get into later how you can then maximize those points values by combining them and transferring them to complete that trifecta, right? So essentially, you're utilizing the Freedom Unlimited as a catch-all card to earn that 1.5x, no annual fee, and you can also get the 3% on dining at restaurants. That does also include takeout and eligible delivery services, as well as dine-in. So essentially 3% on all dining is pretty nice there, as well as the 1.5x. So essentially, that's what the Freedom Unlimited is. Now, at the second slot, you typically have is the Chase Freedom Flex. Now, the Chase Freedom Flex card also earns ultimate rewards points, which you're able to pool, combine together We'll get into that later. Now, the Chase Freedom Flex is a 5% quarterly bonus category card. What that means is essentially every 3 months on the quarters, January through March, and then April to June, July, August, this so on and so forth through the different quarters of the year. Right now, we're in quarter 4, so that would be October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. That's the 3-month periods that you're going to have for these quarterly bonus categories. Now, if Chase does set those, you're not able to choose them yourself. Chase sets those. Now, throughout the year, the current cashback calendar, as you can see, January to March, April, June, July, September, October, December, they do change. You do have to activate these as well in order to earn. And that's essentially the 5% quarterly cashback card. Now, the nice thing is you can actually get 5% on these categories of spend. Now, it is up to $1,500 of spend per quarter. So that would be effectively, if you max out that $1,500 of spend in each quarter, that's going to give you a net of $75 cash back, or that would be 7,500 ultimate rewards points that you can then redeem with Chase's travel partners. We'll get into a little bit later with the Sapphire Preferred as an option. But essentially, you use the Freedom Flex, rack up more ultimate rewards points that you can sit in your Chase account. Now, the 5% quarterly categories are pretty good in general. Again, grocery stores, pretty easy to hit. Amazon, streaming services, they do rotate, so it is a little bit more work to earn that 5%. But it can be a pretty nice earning card, especially on categories that are pretty everyday. Now, if you wanted to opt for just a single card, you don't necessarily need the catch-all from the Freedom Unlimited. Again, you go with the Freedom Flex. You do also get the 3% on dining as well as drugstores on both the Freedom Flex and the Freedom Unlimited. So that is something to keep in mind when you're looking at the cards. So you do also get that. It also comes with $0 annual fee and pretty similar sign-up bonus, basically that 200 on 500. Same sign-up bonus here, at least currently with the Freedom Flex as the Freedom Unlimited. Get no annual fee. So this is another way to rack up some ultimate rewards points on spend throughout the year. Now, overall, my opinion, it is still, somewhat small in terms of the total amount of points, but it does add up over time, especially considering that all purchases are going to count at least at 1.5 with the Unlimited, and then you can kind of hit those, max those targets out each quarter with the Freedom Flex if you can on certain spend. Anything that basically doesn't fit in a quarterly bonus category, you can put it on the Unlimited, and you have that as a dual 2-card setup there. Now, getting into the Trifecta is the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Now, this is one of the Trifecta options, and is probably the most popular option. That's why I'm covering this one in today's video, because this is essentially the gateway ticket that you can use in order to get access to the travel partners, which is where you get a more outsized value for your points. Now, the Chase Sapphire Preferred is a more premium travel credit card within Chase's lineup, and this is effectively completing the Trifecta and essentially what you're able to do. Now, depending on when you're watching this video, certain bonus offers may be available, may no longer be available, but essentially how this card earns, you also get the 5x on Chase Travel, so same as the Flex and the Unlimited, and the 3x on dining. It does also come with that as well. However, this card actually does come with a whole host of other things to consider. Now, it does have a $95 annual fee. However, that can be somewhat offset by the $50 annual Chase Travel hotel credit that it does come with. Now, do keep in mind, though, that sometimes, the hotels in Chase Travel might be a little bit more expensive than what you can get outside the portal. So value that how you will. It's not necessarily as easy to value it as a pure $50, because if you spend more in the portal, then is it really worth $50? I don't know. But the annual fee is $95. That is hard set. If you want to use the credit, cool. That can kind of help offset it a little bit. And, value that what you will. You also do get, again, 2x as well on other travel purchases. That 2x is on all other travel. That includes hotels, airlines. That includes transit as well. Chase actually includes transit essentially as a travel category. So you're getting things on tolls, parking, all those kind of other miscellaneous things, campgrounds, even, or cruise lines, whatever it may be, anything that kind of remotely fit into transit and travel, Chase lumps them all into the general travel category. So you're getting 2x on all of that. Now, where does it stand with what you're able to do with this card? Essentially, the main benefit of this card is it unlocks the ability to get the 1-to-1 points transfers with their airline and hotel travel partners. This includes Aer Lingus Air Club, Air Canada Aeroplan, British Airways Executive Club, Flying Blue Air France KLM, Iberia Plus, JetBlue TrueBlue, Singapore Airlines, Southwest, United, Virgin Atlantic is on their airline travel partner side of things. On the hotels, that includes IHG, Marriott, and World of Hyatt. Now, in my opinion, and most people on the internet will say World of Hyatt is one of the best. You do also have their airline partners, and that's because of the average points value. You can look up and see how much points values are as far as each of these different programs yourself. But essentially, you're able to transfer at a 1-to-1 value and then utilize those points for free night award stays. If you utilize points, you can sometimes get additional benefits. So that's really the perks of utilizing this trifecta is you're able to earn on more categories. And then because of the way that Chase's points work, you're able to transfer points from your unlimited and your flex over to the preferred in order to book with the travel partners, whether it be for airlines or hotels. You would not have this points transfer feature if you just have the flex and the unlimited. You need at least the Sapphire preferred in order to get you that transfer value. And that is one of the main perks and benefits with utilizing these cards. Now, one other thing to consider as well with the Sapphire Preferred, it does also come with 3x on select streaming services. Although how much do you necessarily spend on streaming services every year? Again, it is another category you can hit. But again, it may be harder to utilize. Same with the online grocery category. It does also come with 3x on online grocery purchases. Again, this is things like Kroger delivery. This does exclude Target, Walmart, and wholesale clubs. So how easy this one is necessarily to use, again, remains to be seen. So I'm mentioning them now, but I do want to include, at least that does include 2 additional categories of spend that you may be able to hit. And then you do also get a 10% points bonus equal on your account anniversary. So if you spend $25,000, you'll get 2,500 bonus points. Not too shabby. Again, it's just like a nice little extra bonus, but it is pretty small in the grand scheme of things. But it is a nice little perk that does come with the Sapphire Preferred, worth mentioning as well. So essentially that is the trifecta. Now, you can opt to go with the personal setup. You can also opt to go with the business version. The business version earns slightly differently. Typically, the elevated offers, the sign-up bonuses are going to be higher, but that also comes with more spend. So do keep that in mind. The Inc. Business Unlimited is essentially the same as the Freedom Unlimited, but it's the business version. The one additional perk that it does come with is on Lyft rides. Currently, it is up to 5x on Lyft rides as well. That's going to be the same across the Inc. Business Unlimited, Inc. Business Cash, and the Chase Inc. Business Preferred. So that is kind of a nice benefit that does also come with those cards, at least at the moment. They do also offer some Lyft category bonus on the other cards too, but I know for a fact that at least it is 5% on the Inc. cards on all 3 of them, as well as I recently got all 3 of them myself. So that's something to consider. If you're looking at the Inc. Business Cash, this one is their 5% category card. However, it does not rotate by quarters. Instead, it's going to get you 5% on office supply stores, internet, cable, and phone services on up to $25K in spend. You're going to get 5% cash back. Again, this is also Ultimate Rewards points. So if you have a small business, definitely can make sense to go for the Inc. cards to kind of go with like a 6-fecta version or at least a 5-fecta, because ultimately if you have the Sapphire Preferred and the Inc. Business Preferred, it's not necessarily needed to have both because they both come with the travel partners, so you really don't need to necessarily pay that annual fee for both cards because the benefits are effectively overlapping in terms of getting the travel partners, and having both of these cards, not that necessary. You really only need one of them. So if you're opting to go with the business cards as an additional add-on to your Chase Trifecta, then I would say at least just decide between the Sapphire Preferred or the Ink Business Preferred when you're looking at them. Otherwise, you're kind of paying extra annual fee for no reason when you're comparing the two. Now, the other nice benefit with the Ink Business Cash is it does also cover gas stations, which is a category not covered otherwise at 2% up to 25K within this setup. So that is a nice extra perk and benefit. Again, the sign-up bonus is currently elevated on a limited time offer with both the Ink Business Cash and the Ink Business Unlimited. So that is something to consider if you're trying to maximize that limited time offer. Again, when you're watching this video, that may no longer be available. But the Ink Business Cash is one of the best earners for 5%, especially if you're spending at office supply stores or on internet, cable, and phone services. Again, most people are going to have that. It's pretty easy to hit a good amount of spend, especially on internet, bills being so expensive these days. Same with phone services. Again, that's just more categories that you can hit on spend. If you have a business, definitely worth considering. Again, these also earn ultimate rewards points that you can transfer. And in terms of transferring partners and things like that, next, looking at the Ink Business Preferred. This is essentially the business version of the Chase Sapphire Preferred. You have the Chase Ink Business Preferred. Now, this one is also going to give you more elevated points on travel. However, the Ink Business Preferred actually earns 3x on all travel, capped at 150K in spend in that per account anniversary year. It also gives you 3x on shipping purchases, advertising purchases in social media and search engines, internet, cable, and phone services. Although ultimately, if you have the Ink Business Cash, you're probably better off putting the internet, cable, phone services on this card because it gives you 5 instead of 3. But if you're trying to cut down on the number of cards you have, hey, maybe that's better for you. Then you have the travel card, travel earnings essentially at 3x. So it is 1x better on the Business Preferred. And it has the same annual fee. The only thing to consider is it does not come with the $50 hotel credit. Again, valuing that is kind of difficult anyway at the end of the day. How much is that $50 really worth? If you're paying more on the portal, take that as you will. But in my opinion, the Ink Business Preferred is one of the best cards that Chase has to offer. And it does also have a sign-up bonus. Again, that number of spend is a little bit higher, but for businesses, might not be too difficult to hit that, just depending on the nature of your business and what you spend. Again, this is going to get you access to those one-to-one points transfers for the airline and hotel travel. So you really choose between one of those, and that can complete essentially either be your Ink Trifecta with the Ink Business Preferred, Business Cash, and Business Unlimited, or you go for the personal setup with the Sapphire Preferred, Freedom Flex, and the Freedom Unlimited, or you go with a 5-fecta or even a 6-fecta. Maybe you just get them all just to get everything that Chase has to offer at this level. Maybe you go with all 6 of these options. They all earn Ultimate Rewards points and can all be pooled together for those transfer partners. So essentially that is what the Chase Trifecta is in a nutshell, right? You have 3 different card options. You could also go with the Sapphire Reserve, although I really don't recommend that card, at least for most people at this time, so I'm not really talking about that one in this video. Most people, it's going to be the Sapphire Preferred, or even maybe the Ink Business Preferred, especially compared to the Sapphire Reserve. Again, maybe that's worth looking into for another discussion at this time, but essentially, that's mainly the main trifecta you got, and then you can kind of, opt in to add in some of those business cards or ink cards if you are a business owner. That can be an optional step if you want to do that, or you just stick with the classic trifecta, right? The Flex, the Unlimited, and the Preferred. That's going to get you a good amount of category spending per year on those categories here, and then you can essentially use that for your travel for the year for airlines and hotel partners that Chase has. And you can really maximize the value of your points by doing that with these cards. So again, that's really the options you have here. Again, you go with the Ink Trifecta, you go with the personal, regular trifecta, or you do a little bit of both, because ultimately you got the Unlimited and the Flex are both no annual fee cards. The Business Unlimited and the Business Cash are also no annual fee cards. And then you just opt for one of those annual fee cards to get the transfer portal, to transfer to partners, pull your points together and transfer them out through that third card. And there you go. Or through that, whichever preferred card you want, whether we want the regular or the Business Preferred. And that's your setup at the end of the day. So it can be a good option, can be a great way to maximize points. Again, hopefully you guys found this video helpful on why you need the Chase Trifecta. Everybody talks about the Chase Trifecta. I find it to be pretty valuable, especially with those ink cards mixed in. And it can be a great way to maximize the points value that you get out of Chase and how to actually earn with Chase's credit cards. So, space out those applications and start getting the Chase cards, sooner rather than later. Again, it's up to you to decide how you want to do things in your Chase credit card journey. But hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If you did, then be sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, and notification bell so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Anyway, guys, that's all for today's video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.